right, good morning, everybody. It's Cowboy. It is Friday, August the 16th, 2024. Market's pretty quiet, although yesterday the equities market was actually pretty loud. A lot going on in equities. How do I say this? It's just markets being pushed back up, right? So we know that a lot of the volume and everything else in equities is highly controlled. You could say the word fake, no, it's real money, but it's just, well, as real as money could be, right? How real is money? Well, whatever is going on, they're pushing money into the equities market. So the equities market's going to continue to at least go sideways until the election, most likely. That's my estimation of things. I mean, a lot of things can happen, anything can happen, but most likely that's what we're going to see. Crypto did take a bit of a hit. So, well, let's go ahead and start with equities. That does seem to be what people are paying attention to. So it did have a heck of a run the last few days here. Let's share the screen. All right. If you have guys and gals have anything you want to see, just ask for it in the comment section. The Guerilla will not join us today. He's got some things he's got to handle. And let me get the screen where it needs to be. Okay. Zoom that in for you. So we're looking at the SP 500, the great bellwether, and we had our big move down back in at the beginning of August, and of course the big panic on the 4th, 5th of August, right? And then we have seen a little sideways movement, a couple of moves up and down, and then price has gone up. What basically happened was the day after the big panic, we saw the Japanese bank put the carry trade back on. We've all been through this story enough times now. If you're watching this show, chances are you've already heard about this whole thing where the Japanese Bank of Japan took off. They went ahead and unwound the carry trade, a huge percentage of it. And then we went ahead and put that back on. So the market is coming back to normal, and it's pretty much where it was well before they actually announced the removal of carry trade. Although, I mean, they did start hiking their rate quite some time ago. I think they started hiking their rate back in like early June. However, price went the opposite to expectation at that point. And then, we saw the prices take a significant fall against the yen. So the dollar against the yen got a lot stronger. And then we saw all that we saw. And the result is what you're seeing on the chart here, which is the SP 500. And markets took a pretty significant pull down. Let's see what the SP 500 range downwards was. About a good 10%. That's huge. That's massive. Billions and billions wiped out. Or I think it was trillions, if I'm not mistaken. Now it's back up. It's gone up about 9%. So right now it is a good it's a good 3% down from its height. So you're looking at not much of a change. And generally in an election year, you'll see that markets go pretty much sideways into the election. Our October can be a bit of a take back month, but I expect either sideways to up. I wouldn't be surprised to see our 6,000 target that we talked about still get met by the end of the year. Right here on TradingView, the SP 500 has it's on the bottom right, a little hard to see here. Let me see if I can illustrate it with an arrow for you. Give me 1 second. So this right here, you see this blue line right there, and they have 6,000 actually not being met until about 2027, right? But we saw price this year in just 2024 alone go from 4,600 all the way to 5,700, almost met 6,000. So to me it seems that this curve right here is the forward curve is a little underestimating. But hey, you never know. That whatever that curve, however it does its math, I don't know. We'll see how all that works. But right now, it does seem that equities futures are a place to play because the rest of the market is extremely slow. There was some excitement in Bitcoin yesterday. Price did actually take a tumble. I think it's starting to recover. So let's jump into that. Okay, so again, we'll take a look at the broader history. We have our high time frame consolidation going back all the way to March. We're starting to get into the fall here. Price jumped out of that. Looks like it rallied back up here. So let's illustrate what's happened here. What we're seeing is a possible bearish retest. And I know nobody wants no one wants to talk about this, but there's a good chance that there might be an extended pullback after the halving, which is, not unreasonable, right? And we're going to talk about Bitcoin a little bit today and what might be happening. We don't know yet. We're going to talk about two different possibilities. There are infinite possibilities, but we're going to just talk about two of the ones that I think have a better probability, right? General possibilities, not some exact price points, but mostly just general ideas. So with price action, you're going to see this looks like a giant distribution at this point. Now, it may not be. It might be just an accumulation with a pullback and it heads up. But the way the price action works is you get accumulations and distributions, right? So price will either go up or down into a consolidation. A consolidation is where price kind of bounces around in the same area like this. Okay, that's a consolidation. There's a lot of names for it, but in non-uppy downy terms, very professional terms, in non-directional terms, this is a consolidation. Price just kind of stays in one area for a while. And then at one point, it's going to go up or down. And whether it goes up or whether it breaks down is going to determine if this was an accumulation or a distribution. And if price heads up into this consolidation and then heads up afterwards, then you're looking at an accumulation, right? Everybody was buying some of this on the way up, and then price kept going up. Everybody accumulated, and then price took off. The market decided, okay, people want to buy more of this, so price is actually going to go up because there's not enough supply, right? So accumulation and distribution, aka consolidation, only happens when supply equals demand over a period, over a price range, because there's enough people selling, enough people buying to keep price from going anywhere. And then once that supply or demand end up outstripping one another, then you get price going in the other direction. If price goes down after this, it's a distribution. And that means that all the people who bought sold, right? And all the people who were going to buy were going to buy, and others kept selling. And there's not enough people buying anymore. So price is going to go down because the demand is outstripping the supply. Very, very basic economics. Now, at this moment, it does look like this is a distribution. And as a matter of fact, typically after you have a consolidation, whether the breakout is up or down, you get a retest. And if price were to go down, you get what's called a bearish retest, where it tends to go back up, test this area to see if the demand is actually the same as the supply, because the demand might catch up a little bit right here, and then the supply kicks in. And if the demand is still strong, it may be that it goes back into this consolidation and supply and demand actually meet each other over that price range. But in this case, we are looking at a scenario where we don't know yet. It does look like a bearish retest. That's what this is called. When price comes down, tests this consolidation and continues down, that's called a bearish retest. That means that the supply is, at least in the short term, outstripping the demand at this time. Now, that can change over time because things change in the market. People get more money. The rest of the market does well. Your SP 500 goes to new highs, and there's extra money floating around, and all of a sudden there's more demand because people have more money. There's a lot of reasons why new demand can hit. New demand can hit because some other country says, okay, we're going to, buy all the Bitcoin, and all of a sudden there's no supply. And all of a sudden the demand outstrips supply because the supply gets taken down. There's a lot of different reasons why price can go up. So at the moment, though, this looks like a bearish retest to me. That's what it looks like. And a bearish retest usually precedes a move down, and a move down can go down to prior supply zones. Supply and demand, both can exist. Like right here, you had a little tiny area here where price and demand and supply kind of wagged in the same region, right? You have right here sitting at about 51,000. Price did jump down to grab that, bounce real high back up to this area above. And that happened during this kind of panic time last week when all the Japanese yen drama happened, right? Now we're going to find out whether or not price, supply and demand have some kind of equilibrium here, or lower, or higher. That's just markets. It's how they work. There's really nothing else to it. And so at this time, though, I can tell you in the high time frame algorithmically that there, excuse me, there are some things that the bulls should not like to see on the algos, and there is a decent chance price is going to come back down to retest some lows. It doesn't mean it's going to happen though, but you have some areas that that are going to be key, and they're going to be important as far as where price might go. You're going to have this area that it's already gone to where you had this consolidation, this little small consolidation between 53.5 and 55.8, and price already went down and touched that. You're going to have this area, which price touched back last week during the panic, and that was about 53,000, and it goes all the way down to about 50,500. Price actually dipped into the 40,000 range, and really price technically pretty much touched this consolidation area. Not quite, but you can see that price back in this this era, back in 2024 January, price did peak and then come down. And then this panic price actually came down and went below this peak right there. So technically price did touch some supply, or some demand, I should say. So the supply came down to touch some of the demand, right? So, and that really rocketed price all the way back up to about 60,000. And that's when we at Algo Factory were telling everybody, hey, look, the big money is not selling right now, right? So now we'll see if we can get some data from the Guerilla. I can talk to him in the background, and we'll see if before the end of the day for Algo Factory folks, we can get some data on what the large money is doing with Bitcoin right now. We'll see about it. Usually not a lot going on right now in this time of year. Most of your financiers are taking a break. But of course, from their yachts and from everywhere else, a lot of them are still going to operate when you have scariness in the market, right? Or they're going to have assistants that are working for them in the office that are just kind of keeping an eye on things to hold down the fort. So, finance pretty much goes to sleep, but there are alarms that can wake them up in the summertime. In the meantime, though, just to kind of take a brief glance at the algos here, and then we'll jump into the private group. Volatility is on the high time frame, falling off a cliff. The move last week did push volatility up. Volatility, basically what that means is that like the strength of price in any given direction, right? So if price is moving really hard up or down, that's an increase in volatility. And we did see a little bit of a peak up in volatility on the week just due to last week's madness. But in reality, volatility is still pretty low on the algos. So, volatility is really, really going to rise up once price chooses a direction up or down. And I'm going to roll back to this era. And this is 2021. And we had a peak in 2021. And price created a consolidation like we talked about right here. And by the way, there's this attempt to break out, and it got shoved back down. Now, as it did, it's hard to see on this time frame, but if I jump down to the daily, there was a bearish retest, and there was a move down, and it spent a number of months down there before it actually moved up to new highs. So just because price pulls down, I went down to the wrong time frame here. Let's go to the daily. Okay, so where are we? There it is. So the last cycle, and we're going back to 2021 now, price did create this range up here. And as it fell out of the range, you can see it's kind of hard to see here. It's this, and again, this is not the cleanest of ranges, but it is, more or less of a consolidation. I could tighten this up a little bit or loosen it. But as price fell out, you can see on a lower time frame, it did jump up to test on the way down. Basically right here, it came up to test that, and then it made a nasty wick down, and it wicked down to a prior support zone. You can see that price had consolidated over here on the way up, and it came down to retest that before it made its way back into this kind of months-long consolidation. And it was from, price was going down from mid-May all the way until like mid-July. And this was compared to now in the cycle, this would be like in 2025, right? So this is way after, I mean, this is when people thought the all-time high was in. And so they were like, okay, the bear market is starting, right? And then price actually, instead of coming up to retest and not being able to break its peak, it broke and made a new high up at 69,000, which was remarkable. I think a lot of it had to do with people being at home in the pandemic and throwing their stimmy checks into Bitcoin. But in the end, the bear market did ensue after that. We ended up with what we ended up with, and the 4-year cycle ended, and that's just typical. So right now, it's a little early for us to think that the top is in. Now, it could be in. There's a lot of new things happening in crypto. You have institutional money coming in that actually could hamper progress. I'm not saying that the top is not in. I don't think it's in, but it could be. It's possible. I mean, there are things in the high time frame I see that I'm like, wow, this looks kind of toppy. But typically in the cycle, this is not where the top happens. So now there've only been 4 cycles. So we don't have a whole lot of data, and a lot has changed in the market. So, it's kind of this time is this time. You don't want to say this time is different. Those are famous last words in trading, but the reality is that we have a very small sample size. We don't have 200 halvings to look at and say this is how it usually goes, right? Like each halving has had its own quirks, like that double top that we saw last halving. So I would say that chances are the halving's not in, but we could see price, if it were to mimic what happened last cycle, we could see price head down, hang out here for a few months, and then go up. Not until October. Now I've seen some really good estimates as far as where price could go. We're talking about the anywhere from 100 to 200,000. That's realistic, I think, for Bitcoin's next high. I like 120, but it could easily eclipse that. Mathematically, it's supposed to go way higher. I just don't know that it's going to be allowed to. But this right here, that I just drew, that's the more bearish scenario for this bull run. It could actually pop right back up and on its own. Without needing, what I mean? It might not need to grab this liquidity down at like the 48, 46,000. It may go down there. It may not, but it might just go ahead and pop like this. And we see, instead of waiting for October, we might see it happen in September. There are infinite possibilities in between, but these are the 2 scenarios that I'm kind of generally looking at, right? Like the time table might be a little different than what you see on the screen, but this is what we're looking at. Question is, does Bitcoin need more liquidity to head back up? So we're going to take a look at liquidity over in the private live lab. I took a little longer on the public one today just so people can understand, what's going on here. So, so there you go. Nice little hookup. Come on out over to algofactory.tech. There is a QR code in the top right-hand side of the screen. You can, what's going on here? You can zap that. It'll take you to the website. Follow us, of course, on YouTube. Follow us on X. I'm not streaming on X right now because I switched my profile picture, and they take away your blue check for usually it's supposed to be 3 days. It's been 4. So until I get my premium back, I can't stream on X. So apologies to anybody who are X people and like to watch me on there. Talk to Elon about it. Tell him to get my blue check back. I paid for it. Not sure what's going on. The last time I changed profile pic, it took like, 3 days. But the time before that, it took way longer. I was like, what's going on? I don't know if anybody's like, at the helm over there on X. I know you fired like 90% of the staff, Elon. Get it together. All right, everybody. Much love. AlgoFactory.tech. Trade your job, upgrade your life. Do not forget.
Join us or die.